It's halftime, and once again, another edition of Meet the Cardinals. And joining us is Haywood Irwin from Foss High School in Tacoma, Washington. How you doing, big fella?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. My old hometown of Foss High School. Let's talk a little bit about Foss now. I'm an old guy, you know that, man. I remember working at Cheney Stadium when Foss High School was being built.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's right across. It's like right on the campus of Foss.
Yeah, right. As a matter of fact, is there still a big hill there? Because they built Foss High School up on the hill overlooking Cheney Stadium, didn't they?
Yeah, it's still a big hill.
All right. So what do you remember about high school and then the decision to come here to North Idaho College? Talk about that process.
Well, I went to Mount Tacoma for 3 years, and it just wasn't a really good program, and people were telling me I had a lot of potential. So I just wanted to be coached by one of the best coaches in Tacoma. So I went to Foss by Coach Goke. And then by getting recruited by North Idaho, it was a lot of colleges after me, but the best coaching staff, they really wanted me. And I like G a lot and Corey, and they just really saw a lot of talent in me, so I just went there.
And a lot of people refer to Coach G because he does a lot of AAU coaching in the area.
Yeah, I definitely heard about him before I went here. So people were really giving me a good name about him, so that's why I like him.
So a lot of the Tacoma area and, of course, Tacoma, Seattle, the AAU programs are just simply outstanding. Caleb from that area, you've got BJ from Garfield and some of the other players. Did you know these guys playing in AAU and Slam and Sandy as well?
Well, I was a late bloomer, so I wasn't really a big AAU kid, but I heard about them a lot. So I watched BJ in the championship. I watched Trey and Sammy battle in the semifinals at the stateship, and I've heard of Caleb, so I never really knew him before, but I've heard of him.
So now that you've heard of him and now you know him playing, but what are those guys like?
Man, it's great playing with them. Like Caleb being a knockdown shooter, drawing so much attention. I love being on the court with him because I just be wide open. Trey's just a bulldog, and Sam just does everything.
And Sammy is slamming Sammy, isn't it?
Exactly.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your game. You come into junior college, you weren't starting, you weren't getting a lot of time, and then you started to come around slowly but surely. Talk about the transition going from high school to junior college.
Well, it's crazy because I basically did whatever I wanted because I was stronger, kind of a tall guard. But when I got here, I went in the lane. I was getting my stuff beat to the baseline and stuff, so it was crazy. But I just developed a couple things, maybe a pull-up, just start being a knockdown shooter and a teardrop.
I need to ask you, too, the fact the conference opener against, I believe it was CSI, you had, goodness, it was a crazy, 23 points in 15 minutes, and that was kind of your breakup game. Talk about it, what it's like when you get into a zone, when the basket, does it seem like you're shooting into a wheelbarrow or something?
Yeah, for sure. Coach Corey was always telling me that I'm going to be a big player. He always said the Andrew Iguodala of the team. So I just kept my confidence, and once I started feeling it, I just kept going, and I just never kind of looked back. So just kinda.
How about that big three against Salt Lake? How'd that feel? And you went up with a lot of confidence. Are you confident in your shot right now?
Yeah, I'm really confident in my shot. My form feels good, but actually, Coach Corey even called that. I was on the bench, and he said, I'm going to sub you, and you're going to knock down a big shot, and that's what happened.
All right, man. It's kind of interesting, too. I was talking on the broadcast, and I said, man, time for Caleb to come up with the big three, and he hit the go-ahead three. So you got to be ready at any time. Your number could be called, and it could be crunch time for you.
Yeah, that's what I like about this team because we can have people that just haven't played all game but come in and give you the hardest 2 minutes and just change the game around, like Scotty and Ziggy and Tony.
All right, that's just the way it is with this basketball team. All right, let's talk about some of the off-court stuff. What do you like to do in your spare time? Don't say playing FIFA.
Nah, I'm more of a Call of Duty man. I heard Ebony mention it. We could play Call of Duty for a whole couple hours. I mean, we've almost been late for practice because of it.
And you do that?
Yeah.
But you don't want to be late for practice?
Nah, for sure not.
Do you have any hobbies? Can you sing? Can you dance? You got anything?
I got 2 left feet. I just like to stay in the gym, rest my body. So
lead feet. I got lead feet too, and I have no other skills whatsoever. My goodness sakes. A question I like to ask the players just to kind of find out where their head is. I like to ask them, if there was somebody that you could sit down and talk to and ask them about, anything. It could be a religious leader, it could be a politician, could be an explorer. I know I was talking to Ebony, and she mentioned Martin Luther King. I mentioned the fact that I'd like to sit across the table and talk to John Kennedy and find out, what going through his head during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Who would be that person that you'd have an opportunity that you'd like to maybe sit across the table and just, as us old folks would say, chew the fat?
Well, he may not be as big as everybody like mentioned before, but I would say Isaiah Thomas. He's like a hometown hero. He's from Tacoma.
Curtis High School.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to see like how he just came through. It's kind of a tough neighborhood. How he just fought all that and stayed focused with everything going back home and stuff like that. So
I mean, and that's one thing too. Talk about keeping focus when things are going crazy around you. And you mentioned Isaiah, and of course he went to the UW, went from Curtis to UW, and now, goodness, I think he's playing for the Celtics, is he not?
Yeah. He's
Talk about that, the focus mention and focus aspect.
Well, you just gotta like make it two different worlds, basically. Like you gotta make sure you don't forget about home, but when you're down here, you just gotta have 100% focus down here and what's going on down here.
All right. Down the road a little bit, after your basketball career is over, whenever that might be, in life, the future, any thought about what you'd like to do?
Yeah, I love the game of basketball, so I just want to stick around with it. Maybe get coaching, something like that.
What kind of coach would you be?
Well, I want to, of course, be a head coach, but, start off assistant, work my way up, stuff like that.
Would you be as they use the terminology, old school? Would you players coach, or you're real strict disciplinarian, or how do you see that?
I like players coach, like Coach Corey, like a players coach that understands a lot, been through everything, so that's a players coach.
He can relate to you, but if you're late for practice, he get after you.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
All right, we'd like to give a shout-out time. Look in the camera and say anybody that you'd like to give a shout-out, your friends back in Tacoma or Foss High School, or who's out there watching you want to say hi to.
I just want to say shout-out to my family, my mom, immediate family, Dreon Coleman and his family, and that's about it.
All right, fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Cardinals. There's Haywood Irwin right there, and you'll be seeing a lot more of him in the years to come here at North Idaho College.